Welcome back, everybody. We got week 15 here, double D's. I'm Daryl,
And I'm Dave.
and we're here with some more fantasy stuff.
That good.
That good fantasy. All right. Injuries at running back this week. Matt Forte. I mean, the guy kind of resurged his career a little bit with the Jets. Had a couple down weeks in the middle. Come back. He's hurting. Bilal Powell stepped it up big in his absence last week.
Yeah, Matt Forte is someone that you vented about this last couple weeks. You've said over and over that if you never traded anyone in our league, that would have been one guy that really rode the workhorse for you. And again, it still really wouldn't have hurt you because of how deep you drafted at running back.
That's true. You and I both play that game. Hey, you draft 4 or 5 running backs, especially with the way our league's set up with the flex formats. And I think that strategy should be used in every fantasy draft. I mean, if you only can start 2 running backs and there's no flex, fine. You don't want to draft 6 running backs. But guess what? If you got flex spots, you got to go deep at running back because so many of them get hurt. You got to draft 4 or 5 and hope 2 of them pan out.
Absolutely.
You really do. Melvin Gordon, hip strain and a knee sprain. Now, I don't see the man playing this week. Kenneth Farrow is a guy to look to add there for him, to pick him up. You should be adding him and Bilal Powell. A.J. Green is expected to return to practice. Even if he practices, I don't see him playing this week. Let's see, what do we got here? The Eagles' backfield, more issues again. Sproles, he got lit up on a play last week.
Wah, wah, wah.
Concussion protocol. Smallwood, he got pulled. He got hurt. Michael Thomas didn't play last week for the Saints with his foot. He's still day-to-day. Now, this, I don't know how much this one hurts as a Dolphins fan. Tannehill, ACL, MCL sprain. I don't know. I like the Dolphins. I don't know if I like Tannehill or not. I really don't. Is Matt Moore any worse or not? We shall find out this week. Julio didn't play because of turf toe. You know what? I don't see him playing them again this week. Why would they? They're playing the Niners.
Yeah, I said it last week, and I'll stand by it again this week. I get it if you were fighting for a playoff spot, but now we're in the part of fantasy where no matter what, I mean, if you still have a week to clinch, not a lot of people run 16, 17 like we do. I'm sorry if you're a Julio owner, but I want him on the bench. I want him rested up for our fantasy playoffs and ready to go. It is a foot injury, toe injury to be exact.
Turf toe.
There you go. Yeah, and that's just something that worries me. I mean, especially when I'm already struggling with Jordan Reed banged up and still playing. I wish they would have benched him too.
Well, you know, even if you're in the playoffs and you're a Julio owner, I'd almost prefer to know he's not going to play than have him play and just be a decoy all game and throw up 3 points. I'd rather be able to plug somebody else in. More running back issues. I mean, Theo Riddick with the wrist injury. Is he playing this week? If you're a Lions fan, you hope he is. Jaguars backfield. Chris Ivory, Denard Robinson, both of them struggling with injuries this week. Dante Moncrief, still with the hamstring injury from last week. He's somebody you got to keep an eye on. Is he going to play or not?
Yeah, that's something that worries me right there. I mean, if you're a Moncrief owner, I know I had him ranked very high last week, but you should have reliable options either on your bench that are equivalent to him or at least in free agency.
I mean, Moncrief's not your wide receiver 1, and
no.
Odds are you shouldn't be your 2 even. That's
He's a great flex play.
Yep.
I mean, I could see him being a wide receiver 2 every week healthy, but again, with a hamstring injury, it's something I don't mess around with.
No, especially at the receiver spot. Those things tend to linger, especially now it's getting colder out. Now, we're talking about ads. Some of these people, well, lots of them we've touched on before. We were talking Bilal Powell. Last week, he had 145 yards rushing, 29 carries, 2 touchdowns, 5 catches. I don't see him putting Forte back in with Powell playing that well.
No, and we run in a very deep league ourselves. I mean, I get it's only 10 teams, but we have 3 flex spots that are out there as well. And, I mean, I got Adam Thielen last week, and I do believe Marquise Lee is still out in our free agency. For what reason, I do not know. I don't have space for him.
Thanks for the reminder. I should go pick him up. I can drop maybe a Corey Coleman because, hey, RG3. Yeah, no. Kenneth Dixon. Out touching Terrence West. If he's somehow sitting there, You need to snag him.
Yeah, it was like, what was it, 42 or 44 to 14 last
On the
week?
snap count?
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. He's the future there.
Yeah, I'm talking him up, and as soon as I traded for Terrence West in the Jeremy Hill package, I immediately added Kenneth Dixon.
You have to. Kenneth Farrow, we touched on him with Melvin Gordon being out. Expect him to be the lead back there. Dontrell Inman, if he's sitting on waivers somehow, I know Tyrell Williams. I think he's the better receiver there overall. He's a bigger target. But Dontrell Inman's had a touchdown in each of his last 3 games. He's been hot lately, and, well, the Chargers don't have anybody to throw to. We touched on Adam Thielen, another guy that you touched on last week. Robbie Anderson for the Jets.
Absolutely. Bryce Petty's favorite target. I said if you were really struggling for a wide receiver to go get him. Now I'm going to tell you, if you just need someone to feel more comfortable with all these injuries out there, go plug him in. He got his targets, he got his catches, he got his numbers. Bryce Petty led the team back from X amount down. You'll go over this later in the podcast. I was very excited to see what we did from the New York Jets. The fans deserved it.
Yeah, no doubt there, Dave. Here's one that, not this week, but I'm sure he got dropped, especially for those people that, in my opinion, foolishly set up their leagues without an IR spot. I feel at least one IR spot, if not 2. You need that in a fantasy league.
I'm in one.
Right. I know. That's why I said foolishly. I'm not trying to dog anybody, but I don't see how you don't have at least an IR spot. Just one. You need a minimum one. Adrian Peterson. He's expected to start practicing this week. Now, he's not going to play this week, but guess what? If you're in the playoffs, he might be somebody that, hey, if you can pick him up and throw him on your roster, who else do they have to run the ball in Minnesota? AP, I think if he's healthy, he automatically takes over lead back jobs. He's AP.
Absolutely.
Justin Forsett, he is out carrying Devontae Booker in his first game as a Bronco, And with the quarterback injuries, if you were starting Stafford and you're leery on it, Matt Barkley for the Bears.
Yeah, back to that Booker situation, though. They're kind of turning into the backfield of the Jaguars. I want to avoid that backfield right now. I believe you said it was a 9-to-5 snap count.
Yeah, yeah.
That's just not viable to
touches,
anyone in
9-to-5 on touches.
Yeah, it's just something that I would avoid until you know who's the clear cut back there.
Right, like this week, the Jacksonville backfield, as long as Ivory and Shoelace aren't playing, TJ's going to get the carries, but is he the running back you want to start or even flex?
Yeah, Texans have a pretty good front line, and that's without J.J.
Right, and that's a huge difference. Now, getting to some games here. We got Thursday night's matchup, Rams, Seahawks. Richard Sherman, he's an outspoken individual. He came out and was complaining about the Thursday night games once again. I agree with him. Dave and I, neither one of us like the Thursday night games. The Rams, I don't understand this team. They give Jeff Fisher an extension, then they fire him a couple weeks later. They started out the year, their defense started out playing really well. 5th fewest points per game allowed up till week 11. After that, they're giving up 39 cents per game. Russell Wilson, he shit the bed last week. Career high 5 picks. He's got 2 touchdowns, 8 picks in his last 3 games. And he's lost the last 3 versus the Rams. I still don't see it happening here. Russell's a big question mark. I don't know if I start him if you have another option at QB. He's been struggling as of late again. He had a couple games earlier where he played well, and then he's back to the struggles. Rawls, you got to start him. I think Jimmy Graham's a good play. Baldwin, I think he comes and goes as Russell does. And if you're starting Gurley, Todd Gurley has just been a complete flop this year as far as where he was drafted. I mean, he usually would go top 5, and he hasn't lived up to that billing. That being said, I don't see the Rams being able to pull this out in Seattle. I think Seattle takes this one. Seahawks 31, Rams 10.
Yeah, I believe you said before the podcast that the Seahawks were, a 13.5 or 14.5?
Yeah, they're between 13 and 14, depending where you look.
I don't talk about sports bets a lot on the spread and such, but if I had a decent amount of money to put down on the Rams this game, I certainly would.
If you're getting 14 points.
Yeah, I don't see Seattle the way they've been playing, even at home, blowing them out the way that the Falcons did last week. I think the Falcons have more of a high-powered offense than Seattle does. Also, I said on the podcast last week you would be very happy and content if Todd Gurley got you 12 to 15 standard points. He pulled out 14.2, I do believe. That is very viable. I get that it's not top 5 value, but neither is DeAndre Hopkins' first round value. I mean, you take the good with the bad. We like running backs more. I would be happier right now with a Todd Gurley than a DeAndre Hopkins.
By far.
In a keeper league. I can't disagree with what you're saying. The end result in this game, I have Seattle winning this game 21 over the LA Rams 13.
I'd be a little more likely to go with the Rams if they had more of a passing game. I saw last week against the Packers. Seattle really misses Earl Thomas a lot more than they thought they could. I mean, it's the Legion of Boom, and you got Richard Sherman, and you got Cam Chancellor. Well, Earl Thomas, he's kind of the straw that stirs the drink there. He is their leader on defense. I know Sherman's the outspoken one, but he's the guy.
Yeah, I think home field advantage had everything to do in my score in this game.
Yep, I would agree with you. Then we're going to New York. We got Dolphins, Jets. 8-5 Dolphins fighting for that last wild card spot. Matt Moore taking over as a starter. How much of a drop off is he? I don't know. He's 13-12 in his career. Not a huge sample size. He's got a better winning percentage than Tannehill. But you got the Jets. Bryce Petty last week. He led the largest road comeback in Jets history. The Niners blew a 2-touchdown lead there. If you're starting a Jet, it's got to be Bilal Powell, maybe a Robbie Anderson if you're throwing him out there. I really like Jay Ajayi in this game. I think with Matt Moore being the starter, I think they're going to lean on him even more. No pun intended there. And Carlos Hyde almost put up 200 yards rushing last week against this Jets defense. Jarvis Landry, he's starting to come around a little bit, but he's a little more of a question mark with Matt Moore. Is that going to be one of his targets? Same with Devontae Parker. I mean, I guess if you got Landry, you might not have a better option as your wide receiver 2 or a flex. That being said, I think Miami, they keep their playoff hopes alive. This Jets team doesn't have enough. I know the Jets and Dolphins play each other tough. I think Miami takes it 24, Jets 17. I think they ride Ajayi and keep fighting for that last spot.
Yeah, definitely. I thought the Dolphins were serious contenders to be in the playoffs until Ryan Tannehill went down. I don't think I'm as big of a hater on him as most, and I know you don't hate him.
No.
He has time to shine, or certain times that he shines. Someone that doesn't get talked about a lot on the Miami defense or offense, I think we always talk up the two mains, and we forget about Kenny Stills. He scored again last week. He's not a great option for you to plug in come fantasy time because you don't know who it's going to go to there. I think a great DFS start if you want to go down that road.
Yeah, you can get him really cheap.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with the running back situation of either team that you touched on. Bryce Petty, well, we'll see what he can do. We'll see if he's for real. They are at home. It would be amazing if he could get back-to-back wins for those New York Jets fans. I mean, I think I feel worse for them than I do the Cleveland Browns. I feel like the Browns do it to themselves. And it just seemed like the Jets were kind of quitting on their team. Sloppy game, though. I have Miami winning this game 17, New York Jets 13.
See, and I don't really hate on Tannehill, and everybody's like, oh, he's been in the league 5 years, and he's not showing quite the progression that he should. He kind of is showing that progression. He didn't play quarterback until like his second or third year in college. He was a wide receiver. So he's still growing as a quarterback. I just don't know if he's the answer. Matt Moore is a backup for a reason. Browns and Bills. 0-13 Browns. They're striving to join the 2008 Lions at 0-16. Meanwhile, we got the Buffalo Rex Ryans giving up 28 points per game since week 7. They're averaging scoring 25 points per game all year, 10th in the league. Browns might want a Christmas present, but ain't happening this year. December 13th is the 1-year anniversary of their last win. 24-10 Niners against the Niners. With Johnny Manziel against the Niners, another bottom-feeding team this year again. They don't have it. RG3 That was their flyer pickup, hoping he'd be the answer. I don't see it there. They're going to ride Shady until it's too much of a blowout. Then they're going to ride Jealousy. That's the way I feel this game's going to go. Sammy Watkins, he's in the wrong offense. He's still got that potential. He's still a stud wide receiver. The Browns, Terrell Pryor, Corey Coleman, they have that potential. They don't have the quarterback to get him the ball. Isaiah Crowell, no. Duke Johnson, no. You have better options than those two. That being said, the 6-7 Bills improve to 500. Take this game 35-7.
Yeah, as soon as you touched on the LeSean McCoy, Mike Gillislee situation, I just want to commend Rex Ryan for this. I know I talked last week a little bit about the Saints and how they should just workhorse one running back. Well, it's kind of a different situation here to me. I know Mark Ingram has had injury problems, but Mark Ingram is not LeSean McCoy. And I think what Rex and his brother are doing is limiting his snaps to an extent to where you're still going to put yourself in contention for a W, knowing that Mike Gillislee can do work on the ground. I like to see them spread the ball a little bit more there. I think it keeps Shady healthy for you Shady owners longer. I think if they workhorse him like they did in the past couple of years, he's already hurt.
Well, Shady's still getting 20 touches a game. They're just not going to burn him out, and they run 40 times a game.
Well, so don't tell me they couldn't have gave him the ball as many times as they gave Le'Veon the ball last week, and I think Le'Veon rushed 36 or 38 times. I believe it was 36. Why? There's not a reason to do that. There's if you rushed him X amount more, it wasn't going to change the outcome of the game.
Unless you're trying to set records.
Right, and why do that when you need someone long-term when he's your whole
Especially
team?
when he's a player such as LeSean or Le'Veon, who are not slightly, they are injury-prone.
Oh, absolutely. I think so far Le'Veon has proved to everyone that he has worked on how he is avoiding tackles. He's running to the out-of-bounds line. He's still being patient, but he's not putting himself into positions to try to fight for extra yardage. That is when you get hurt. Sammy Watkins, though, is someone that I thoroughly enjoy. He bounced back this week, found himself the end zone. I think he only gets better moving forward. I talked about Tyrod Taylor last week. Just like Sam Bradford, it's someone I don't hate, and why he showed you why he didn't have a bad week. He went up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is a very tough team to beat. Don't be ashamed, Rex Ryan. You bounce back this week. You hold the Browns to 10 points, and you take home a victory with 26 yourself.
And speaking of spreads, this was another one that was like 11 or 12 points, and they're going to cover.
Oh,
they really are. Playoff implications coming up here. 9-4 Lions, 9-4 Giants. Giants fighting for the number one wild card seed. Lions trying to put away the NFC North. But the Lions are 0-2 outside this year. Well, they're playing outside. Stafford has a dislocated finger on his throwing hand. He's going to have to be playing with a glove. I'm a Stafford owner in one of my two money leagues, the one I gave up on, but still. It's hard to say what he's going to do. He's playing a very tough defense. The Giants are allowing less than 20 points per game this year, 7th in the league. Their offense, the Giants' offense, is only averaging 19 points per game, 25th. They have a -5 turnover differential. Somehow they keep winning. The Lions, we were just talking about the turnover differential. They have the 4th fewest giveaways in the league with only 10. They've got 5 wins in a row. Stafford's got 8 game-winning drives in the 4th quarter or overtime this year. And they've only given up 15.5 points per game in their 5-game win streak here. I don't think they push this to a 6-game win streak. I'd like to see it happen to push the Packers out of the playoffs. I just don't. They're playing in New York. It's outside. Theo's hurt. Stafford's hurt. That really hurts Golden Tate's value against this tough Giants defense. They're underrated. They don't get the credit they deserve. I know you've talked about that previously. I think Odell's going to have a good game here. I think you're going to see good Eli at home in a game with playoff implications for both teams. I think Sterling Shepard might just find the end zone himself. Giants 20, Lions 14.
The last time I thought Eli was going to have a good game at home, and we touched on this last week, was week 2 against the Saints. And I feel the same way this week, but God, we've seen what happened last time. We thought there was going to be some fireworks. I said last week that my upset pick was going to be the Giants over the Cowboys. I didn't see the score being that low. We were both worried about Jason Pierre-Paul being hurt and out. I cannot name the gentleman who was his backup, but he filled that role. I'm telling you what, I am so happy about my sports bet ticket again. I agree with you that I would enjoy to see the Lions win this week. I don't think it's going to happen with injury implications. When I sold Theo Riddick earlier this year, my big sell point was around, I think it was around week 5 at this time, that he only had one game that wasn't indoors, and that was this week against the New York Football Giants. Odell finds the end zone again. I can't disagree. Eli finds a way to pull it out, makes Daddy happy, and his bet with the final score, the Giants 24, the Lions 20.
All right, then we got the Battle of the Birds here. Eagles, Ravens in Baltimore. Supposedly a rain and ice storm possible. Not good news for either of these two teams. Ravens at 7-6, trying to maintain the lead on the Steelers. Well, rain and ice isn't good for throwing. Flacco's averaging 42 attempts per game. Carson Wentz, he's on pace for 613 attempts this year. That would be an Eagles record. Why are you letting a rookie throw the ball that much? You got Sproles, you got Ryan Matthews. I get it, Sproles has a concussion this week. I think they ride Ryan Matthews. The Ravens run D's top-notch. Flacco, you don't know what you're getting out of him. You see him throw 4 touchdowns one week, and then you see him throw 50 times for 200 yards and a touchdown rushing the other week. Kenneth Dixon, I think he's going to be a decent start here. I think Steve Smith is going to find the end zone for Mr. Flacco. Jordan Matthews, I think he's going to have a good game. Jimmy Smith is supposed to be out for the Ravens. That being said, Ryan Matthews isn't going to be enough. Neither's Jordan Matthews. Ravens 26, Eagles 17.
The one thing I have to correct you on, sir, is the Steelers are sole leaders in the division right now, actually, with the Ravens losing last week and the Steelers winning.
My mistake.
It's only by a half game because the Ravens
I thought it was the other Steelers. Way. I apologize.
But yes, that's why I've been talking that towards the end of the season. I mean, I didn't want to see AJ this week go up against the Steelers because I thought it was a cakewalk for them without AJ just because it makes you think about another person on the field. And the only game I was looking to was that Ravens game because, again, if the rankings stayed how they were and they played each other and the Ravens won again, they would have that division, and I don't know if the Steelers would have enough to win the wild card. Denver losing last week was big. I was actually super pumped about that. Wrong on the pick myself, but
I was happy as a Dolphins fan, too. That opens it up for me and you.
Absolutely. I texted you while you were at work and said, hey, everything has gone right. We just need the Packers to lose. What happened?
You can't have everything come right for you, right?
We'll talk about that later. Right? Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you touched on a lot of things that I enjoy here. Jordan Matthews, he's super iffy, but I like him more with the injury to the Ravens there and on the defensive side of the ball. Kenneth Dixon. I want to really love this guy. I want to really enjoy him, but there was something I looked at before we started the podcast. I believe the Philadelphia Eagles, it is either they've only allowed 4 or 5 rushing TDs, and that's insane. I get that, but if you're in a PPR league, that's why I like Kenneth Dixon. He's something that Flacco hasn't had. I mean, when Dilfer was there, Jamal.
Yep.
That was, you're dumping the ball off and you're good. Lewis. And when they had the Lewis boys, offensive and defensive
and that's
side.
What I mean. It's a completely different offense from what it was back then. They used to ride their defense and ride Jamal Lewis. And now you got Flacco throwing 40-plus times a game, and they're only averaging 85, 86 rushing yards a game.
Here's the Ravens. They like to spread the wealth with their MVPs. Offense, Lewis. Defense, Lewis. Now, special teams.
Justin Tucker, my man.
I mean, and with all that being said, I have this game still going to the Baltimore Ravens. I'm unbiased because I am a Steelers fan. Would love to see them lose. They are at home. I respect Harbaugh. 23-21.
Man, and speaking of your Steelers, 8-5 against the Bengals. Le'Veon. He's been a beast since he came back from his suspension. 58% of the Steelers' touches, 43% of their yards. I love it. Bengals are coming off their first winning streak of the season. First time they've won 2 in a row all year. Kind of unbelievable. Vontaze Burfict. He actually came out and apologized to Antonio Brown in person for the hit he laid on him last year in the playoffs.
As he should.
He should. He's like, hey, I didn't mean to hurt you. I laid a wood when I have to. It's your receiver. I'm going to put you out. I get it. Old school football player. That would have been respected in the day. Now it's a penalty. The Bengals, even with A.J. Green, I don't think they have enough here. Even with Berger, he's a tale of two quarterbacks. He's kind of mediocre on the road. He's a Hall of Famer at home. Lights out at home. I think they ride Le'Veon here once again, as they did last week. If you have AB, I still have AB number one. He's got too much upside. I have Berger in my top 10. He's got too much upside, even on the road. He really does. I mean, this is a guy that can go off at any given point. This whole offense can go off at any given point. I think Ladarius Green's going to have a good game. I think Tyler Eifert, speaking of tight ends, is going to have a good game. I have him top 3 this week. Jeremy Hill, they're going to pound the shit out of him because they have nothing else on offense. That being said, Steelers take one. Pittsburgh 28, Cincinnati 21.
We have an ironically close score there. If this didn't have, I don't want to say big implications, but I mean, it's a divisional win. It's another win. Since he played the Ravens tough last time they played them, I believe they pulled the special teams play where you hold everyone, run out of the back of the end zone, and run the timeout.
Yep.
So, I mean, everyone in this division plays each other tough. We touched on earlier how Le'Veon was just a beast last week. I think he had 234 rushing yards. He had 60 receiving yards.
It was a Steelers record.
It was just under 300 all-purpose yards. It was insane. 3 TDs. He had 61 points for me in our league. It touched me dearly. I hear you with Big Ben on the road. Here's something that people don't realize. When it comes down to clutch games and clinching games, I seen a post the other week, all the analysts talking, who would you rather have, Eli or Big Ben? Shut the fuck up. I'm taking Big Ben every single time.
I would too.
And here's why. My running back is Le'Veon Bell. My number 1 is Antonio Brown. And if we're talking about just 1 year, okay, we could kind of balance the wide receiving cores of the two teams.
Right, it's not taking anything away from Odell.
Let's not forget who Martavis Bryant is if we're talking long-term and he can stay off the weed. We've seen what he can do. I'm taking Big Ben every single time. Jeremy Hill, he's going to get the rushes. We've seen the Steelers' defense step up. They're still going to allow some on the ground. I get that. I don't know. I'm scared. I had Tyler Eifert at number 2 last week. Went off. I said I was going to put Andy Dalton on the podcast at number 2. And for all you out there, I had him on my list at number 2. Got a little shaken during the day with the weather that was going to be there in Cleveland. Moved him slightly down, but still had him ranked inside my top 10. And he had a decent day. I mean, you can't go wrong with a couple thrown TD passes there to Eifert. I like the Red Rock, and I'm telling you, if AJ wouldn't have went down, I would have been very worried as a Steelers fan.
Yes.
Then again, I also see them, Cincinnati Bengals beating the Baltimore Ravens when it was a 2-point game a couple weeks ago when they played. So, I mean, that also gives the Steelers a leg up there. With all this being said, I'm not going to get hyper here. I'm not going to yell because we all know what's going to go down here. Steelers are going to win 28-24. Fuck you, Rex Ryan. I told you so.
Yeah, Rex, that isn't affecting the Bengals-Steelers game. We can tell you off on this one. Colts-Vikings. Vikings are somehow still in it here with a chance to win a division if things fall perfectly right. I don't think it's going to happen. Sam Bradford's completed 70% of his passes in 6 straight games. How can you hate a guy that does that when the only other 3 quarterbacks to do that? Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Joe Montana, and then Sam Bradford. Which one of these does not belong? You know, you can't hate the guy. I like Diggs in this game. I like Rudolph in this game. I like Thielen in this game. I like the Vikings D in this game. They're playing in Minnesota. They're fighting for their lives. Luck struggles against top defenses. He tends to throw a couple picks in games like this, especially on the road. If Moncrief doesn't play, that's going to bode extremely poor for the Colts. I think T.Y. can get shut down by Xavier Rhodes as much as you can shut down a player like T.Y. You know, you got T.Y., you got A.B. You can't shut certain players down. Andrew Luck, you know, he's still going to put up enough numbers that you're starting him. Frank Gore, I'm flexing him this week in my money league. That being said, I don't think the Colts have quite enough in Minnesota. Vikings take this game. Minnesota 27, Indianapolis 20.
Do I even need to say it? Someone I don't hate, Sam Bradford. This guy came out to play last week.
Yes, he did.
I believe Rudolph found the end zone.
Pretty positive.
Thielen had 16 points in our league, and I started him as my wide receiver 2 with complete confidence. I had absolutely no problem adding him. I remember talking to you about a gentleman in our league, and I was like, oh, if I'd have realized he was in this rough of a position, I wouldn't have added him Saturday night. I didn't need him. I didn't start Davante Adams. Didn't need to. I mean, I looked at it, and I gave him the advice, hey, Marquise Lee's out there Thielen. Well, Teddy, you would have had a win, buddy. I'm sorry. Please listen to Double D's because we are here for you.
But at this point, maybe you're playing for positioning on draft picks.
He wasn't. He
was still fighting for a spot.
He would have won. He would have been one win away this week from being in the playoffs.
I know.
I mean, that is something. I mean, hey, and if you still listen to us out there, there's 2 people at the bottom of our league. And if you want to know what we do with our league, last place gets to pick their position first in the draft and so on and so forth. There are 2 gentlemen in our league that are tied for last place. I'm not saying I would throw the week, but I might play for positioning and draft picks next year, as you just stated.
It might be a good idea.
Absolutely. We talked about Moncrief, and this is why I have this game such a low score. He's very big to their offense. I don't think we touched on this gentleman. If Moncrief doesn't play, this guy might be out in your free agency. Philip Dorsett.
Yes.
Someone to look at. I'm not going to tell you that he's going to go out and ball out. Luck got worked last week. He had a couple turnovers. He didn't look like himself. And we're talking about playing a defense that is going to lock down his number 1. And I know it is your player in T.Y. Hilton, but you love Rhodes as much as I do.
Xavier Rhodes, hey, you saw it last week with Jalen Ramsey.
It's something that you don't like
Those
to
are
hear,
players
but
like
you
that.
come to realization as a fantasy player. We built our teams to be able to bench those types of players or be able to sustain an off week without
Right,
them.
I'm still starting T.Y., and you know what? He's projected for, I think, like 19-ish. If he gets me 10, I'm happy.
Double digits is our...
I expect 4 catches for 50-ish.
It's what our goal is every week out of a player. You know what you got. I'm not going to keep rambling on. I mean, it's going to be a bang fest. I see more defense here than most people do. Vikings win it, 17-13.
Nice. I like that. Little love for Skull Nation there.
No diggity, no doubt.
Packers, Bears.
Purple God!
Lions, Packers, Bears. Oh, my. Divisional game. Packers. A-Rod, a couple games back, he said they can run the table, get into the playoffs. They're 3-0 since that point. A-Rod's on fire, throwing for 73%.
From downtown!
7 touchdowns, 0 picks in those 3 games. Their defense has stepped it up. They're allowing 12 points per game.
Boom shakalaka!
In the last 3. But they're struggling with their running game. They're starting, they don't know what to do. They got Starks, they got Christine Michael. We said it weeks ago against the Bears, the last time they played the Bears. They need to do what they did with Ty Montgomery and just spread the field and throw the shit out of the ball, hand it off to Ty 8-9 times and let him do his thing on little sweeps and screens and stuff. I think Davante, you got to play him. He's going to have a good game. Jordy, I have him in my top 10. Well, not if you're clinched and you got Thielen and you're as deep as you are. You don't have to. It didn't cause you to suffer. I think Davante's going to have a good game here. I think Jordy finds the end zone again. Ty Montgomery's starting to show a little bit of life if they use him properly. Big question. Mike McCarthy's had problems trying to fit square pegs in a round hole his whole coaching career in Green Bay. Bears, they're 3-10, but now 5 losses by 6 or less. They play teams tight. They play the Packers tough. Matt Barkley is really surprising me. When he came in for Hoyer, that was the first time I was aware he was still really in the league anywhere, to be honest with you. And he's played well lately. Alshon comes back. I think he's going to have a good game against this secondary. I know the Packers D has been doing well the past couple, but look at really who they've played. They played in the snow the other week, and they did this against Seattle without Earl Thomas. Seattle's falling apart, in my opinion, right now. I think Jordan Howard, I think they ride him. I think Alshon finds the end zone. That being said, the Bears still don't have enough. I think Barkley has a good game. Packers take it, as much as I hate to say this. Green Bay 21, Chicago 17.
With those of you who don't live in the Midwest and don't understand how close Green Bay really is to Chicago, you might say, well, home field shouldn't factor here. But if you look over the history, Chicago plays Green Bay very tough at home. Someone that's coming back this week, Alshon. We haven't seen Barkley with Alshon. We've seen Barkley do magical things without Alshon. Now, is that going to disrupt chemistry? Maybe. Does it make Jordan Howard better? Possibly. I think a lot in PPR. Standard, hit or miss. Someone that I'm willing to give the nickname, I don't want to say back to, but maybe starting right now. I think he's healthy. I'm going to give it to him. He finds the end zone almost every week, at least in the last 4 weeks minimum. And that's off the top of my head. I'm going to call him Mr. Consistency. Jordy Nelson, you are back.
I agree, finally.
And that's scary, because when Jordy Nelson plays good, the rest of the Packers play good. One play we haven't seen A-Rod and Jordy connect on lately is that long up and just cross over the middle of the field for about a 40-plus yard bomb.
And then maybe he breaks it, maybe not.
We're seeing A-Rod find him in the red zone. I don't care how he gets in. It's someone you feel comfortable with. I've been seeing a lot of questions, or have been asked a lot of questions. Who's a consistent number one wide receiver this year? Julio, 60 and AB? Well, I'd call him more consistent in PPR just because he gets the catches. After that, Odell Beckham Jr. has been...
he's up and down. Mike Evans.
Like, even in our league where you get a little bit more points, I think AB's lowest was 9, and I've seen Odell get under 5. I've seen Julio get under
3,
Yeah,
I think.
Exactly. I mean, someone that I would feel very comfortable with is Jordy Nelson. You touched on Devontae. We said we want to see the Packers run out of a shotgun and have Ty Montgomery back there. They've done that the last 2 weeks. He's moved the ball. It's someone that if they would have did this before our trade deadline, I honestly wouldn't have made the trade for Jeremy Hill, Terrence West, and Sterling Shepard, kept Antonio Brown, Starks, and Ty Montgomery, and felt comfortable putting Montgomery in there for the amount of points that I needed him to get. But it was such a cluster that we didn't know what was going to go on there. I could ramble on all day and try to justify why I want the Bears to win this game. I don't see it happening. I enjoy their defense. Had them ranked 6th last week. I'm going to have them somewhere up there this week because of where I have the score. Unfortunately, I have the Green Bay Packers winning this, so you know I'm not a biased picker, and you know I'm not a biased ranker. I'm just going to stop babbling on because I hate that I have to say this score. Green Bay wins this game in a tight one, 21-20.
And I agree with you. We've been complaining multiple times, and Jeremy, we've been complaining at work about this, about Ty Montgomery. They need to use him like when they had Lacey. He needs to get the ball 20 times in the way you need to do what Belichick does. Play your players where they're best played. I don't like seeing the Packers do this with Ty Montgomery because they're a scary team that way. They can put up points real quick. All right, Titans-Chiefs. Chiefs sitting at 10-3 in first in the AFC West because they got the tiebreaker on the Raiders. At this point, they're 20-3 since Week 7 of last year. They're at home in Arrowhead. I don't think they're going to run out of luck in this game. I know they've been down 17-0 earlier this year at the end of the third, come back to win against the Panthers. They had that weird overtime game against the Broncos. Eric Berry had the pick 6 and the pick 2 against the Falcons, which ultimately won in the game. Titans don't have enough here. I know Mariota's been playing well. I know last week he was only 6 of 20, but they got the W. That's what matters. I think they can kind of shut down DeMarco. You're not going to shut him down. I think he still finds the end zone. I think he's going to struggle on yards per carry. If you get like a quarter point per attempt or something, you're golden because they're going to give it to him 20-plus times. I think Delaney's a good play here. Mariota, I don't know what to think of Mariota in this game. Yeah, that's what I think of Mariota. It's not a tumor. That being said, I think Alex Smith has enough weapons with Mr. Tyreek Hill, Spencer Ware. They're going to feed him the ball. Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. I think they make the difference this week. It's Arrowhead. The Chiefs are dominant at home. Kansas City 30, Titans 21.
I'm sorry, I can only be a governor. I'm going to tell you this. There's 5 games that interest me this week a lot. 4 games that I think are just going to be phenomenal to watch. But there's one game that I think will be the best game played and to watch this week overall with offense and defense. And that is this game. Last week, we both picked the Denver Broncos to win. We don't know what to expect from the Vikings. What comes back to me is the Chicago Bears game where they're just up big on them. And 2 drop passes in the end zone could have easily added up to a loss for the Titans. And then we look at them last week and they just bunker down. We were big on the running back situation for the Titans last week. We said, hey, if DeMarco's going to get shut down, even though he shouldn't, I mean, we're talking about a Denver defense that can show up any time or day of the week when they want to, better in the passing game with Talib than they are on the front line with Von Miller there, right?
I agree.
I think it's going to be the receiving core. To win this game for the Tennessee Titans, if they do. I know it's going to be hard going up against Eric Berry.
Mr. Rashard Matthews.
I really think Justin Houston is that it factor on the defense side of the ball.
It is.
For the Chiefs. So it's going to be tough for that DeMarco Murray matchup this week. Don't worry. If you're a DeMarco Murray owner, as I am, playing in my playoffs this week, he is a guaranteed starter for me no matter what. You have to start your studs. Rashard Matthews, well, are they going to key on him or are they going to key on someone else? Or is Eric Berry going to play one side of the field or is he going to lock down a defender? We'll come to that conclusion later in the rankings. I know I'm boggled with this game. I have the Chiefs winning it on paper right now, but it's hard for me to say it. Because once I say it, you know it's in the books. But I'm going to stick with it. Because you know it's in Arrowhead. And that is the deciding factor of this game. I watched Cairo Santos be clutch down the stretch against Denver, and I think they win it on the foot of him, 27-24.
Hey, I got Santos as my 4th rated kicker this week. So
hey, Kelsey,
I'm right there
Kelsey
with you.
Again, top 3 tight end.
I got Kelsey number 1 this week.
Absolutely.
I really do.
He's been lights out for fantasy owners.
Then we got Jaguars and Texans. The Texans are 4-0 in their division. They're going to make it 5 here. You know why? Jaguars are on the road. They're starting Blake Bortles. He's turned into the human turnover machine. They're going to have to workhorse TJ Yeldon. And you know what? He's not a very good running back, but workhorses have that opportunity. You might sneak into the end zone with them. Is AR-15 going to show up this year?
No.
I don't know. Probably not. I agree with you. Probably not. But that's on Blake Bortles as much more so than it is on AR-15. DeAndre Hopkins, guess what? He's not showing up this week either because Mr. Jalen Ramsey's going to shut his ass down like he does with almost every single wide receiver he covers. They're going to ride Lamar Miller. I feel sorry for Brock Osweiler. I don't feel sorry for him. I feel sorry for the Texans for signing him. But still. They got enough with Lamar and going against Blake Bortles. Texans take this game 24, Jaguars 14.
Again, we are ironically close here. The Texans went back to Lamar Miller last week.
Mm-hmm.
They ran the ball heavy. I was happy to see that.
That's what they need to do.
I was flabbergasted to hear you at first say that you felt sorry for Osweiler, and then you corrected yourself.
Wrong term of words, but yeah.
Absolutely. I'm not even going to waste my time on this. Texans win 24-17.
Exactly. And then we got the Saints going into Arizona. You know, Arizona's kind of disappointed this year. Breeze, no touchdowns, 3 picks in each of his last 2 games. No quarterback's done it 3 times in a row, ever. And I think it was like Tyler Packle or something for the Bengals that had done it twice in a row. The only other one. Michael Thomas, him being out kind of hurt him, but still, I can't pick against Breeze to be the first quarterback to do this 3 times in a row. I don't see that happening. If Michael Thomas plays, you got to start him. You got to start Cooks. You got to start Ingram because you don't know who's going to get the ball. You know Breeze is going to throw the shit out of it, though. That's the only thing. You don't know where it's going. I mean, for the Cardinals, I know they're at home, and I know David Johnson is just a complete beast, especially in fantasy. I know you love Le'Veon, but he has been, I do believe, the number 1 overall running back this year.
No, Le'Veon Bell.
I guess if you factor in per game.
Everything, receptions, yards, points. Le'Veon Bell will be the man. You also need to take into factor the 3 games that Le'Veon did.
Right, that's what I'm saying. He missed 3 games. If you take that into consideration, no, he's putting up more. Larry Fitzgerald, he's really hating that Carson Palmer got old, but he did. You got Fitz. I still start him here because the Saints defense doesn't really scare anybody on the road. That being said, the Cardinals don't have quite enough. They're going to ride David Johnson as much as possible. He's going to have a monster game. I think the Saints pull one out just because Breeze shakes this bad streak of the last 2 games he's had. New Orleans takes this game 31-27.
Is everyone out there ready for a crazy prediction they should listen to?
Uh-oh.
If Michael Thomas doesn't play this game, you don't start a single wide receiver or tight end from the Saints. Here's why. We've seen what happened last week when Michael Thomas didn't play. Breeze was exposed. Breeze still threw a touchdown pass. I get that. But are you going to gamble that it's going to your wide receiver? Michael Thomas is that it factor. David Johnson, he's going to have that defense on their toes this whole game. Here's something we've talked about each and every week. How long is the other team's defense on the field compared to the offense for sustainability? One thing Carson Palmer gets to do, whether he's a good QB or not, is have long drives because of his running game. I'm not going to waste our time here. You touched on it. I made my bold prediction. Cardinals win this game 21-17. Who dat?
4-point spread, and I had a tough time picking this one as well just because it is in Arizona and Breeze has been struggling lately. I agree with you. Michael Thomas is the difference. I'm counting on him playing. He missed the other week. I think he plays here. All right, another game. Hey, Niners-Falcons. Falcons at 8-5. I believe they're tied for they're tied for the division lead with the Bucs at 8-5. Not much to be said here. They're in Atlanta. The Niners blew a 2-touchdown lead versus the Jets. Hyde had a monster game. I think Carlos Hyde has another good game here. He's the only Niner I really think is fantasy relevant. I know Cap has kind of fallen back to earth after his monster stretch of weeks. The Falcons, Julio, if they're smart, they sit Julio. Taylor Gabriel's really stepped it up. I think he has another good game. I think the Falcons are going to ride Devonta and Tevin Coleman. I really do, and I think they rest Julio, and their D. This is a great DFS play here. Or if you're one of those guys that streams defenses, here's one to think about. The Falcons, they got this guy, Vic Beasley Jr. This just jumped out at me. He's got 13.5 sacks, tied for first in the NFL, 6 forced fumbles on the year, most in the league. Where did he come from?
Didn't Jason Pierre-Paul have 12.5?
Yeah, Vic Beasley's got 13.5.
Holy God.
Yes.
So now they found their diamond in the rough, such as we talk about fantasy players.
Where'd this guy come from?
Find free agency. That's
huge. And to be able to get that kind of pressure, I know Cap's a mobile quarterback. It's not going to matter. I mean, it's the Falcons. They have one of the most explosive offenses in the game. Not the most, but one of the most. And they're at home. I think they take this game. It's reverse scores here. Atlanta 41, Niners 14.
Big score.
I think so.
I have this game completely lopsided as well. I'm giving the 49ers a little bit of leeway here, possibly more for garbage time. I enjoy Taylor Gabriel. We had him ranked on our page again last week. We had a lot of diamonds in the rough that we talk about that people don't start and play. I'm not going to waste a lot of time on this game.
Nope.
There's not much to say. Between Devonta Freeman and Tevin Coleman, they are going to own this 49ers defense. We've watched LeGarrette Blount go ham on this team, and I consider Devonta Freeman to be the typical LeGarrette Blount style runner. Trying to say Blount's up here and Devontae's here. No, they're the same type of run
similar
style.
styles.
Absolutely. I have the Falcons winning this game 33. 49ers 17. Matt Bryant, the number 2 kicker.
I have top 3 as well, or top 5 as well, Dave. Patriots travel to Denver here. They're 11-2, facing the Broncos 8-5, fighting for that last wild card spot up here in Denver. 10 degrees for the day. Possible snowstorm. There's supposed to be a big snowstorm hitting Denver on Saturday. If that slides into Sunday, this could turn into an ugly game. Brady's 2-7 in Denver. But it's still Tom Brady. He's got 11 touchdowns, 1 pick without Gronk on the year. So, doesn't matter. The Broncos have a tough schedule coming up. I don't think they're going to have enough. Their running game's struggling. They're looking to Justin Forsett. Simeon stepped it up a little bit. Not enough to win games. Their D isn't going to be enough, in my opinion, to take down Tom Brady and the Patriots. I think they ride LeGarrette Blount in crappy weather because they don't want to risk Deion Lewis getting hurt. I think Edelman, he's kind of going to get shut down a little bit. I think Mr. Mitchell is the play again. You've been high on him the past couple weeks. I agree with you. That being said, I know it's in Denver. Regardless of the weather, I think the Patriots take this game. New England 27, Denver 24.
I'm a hood check, selling deflated balls by the pound. With that being said, you understand who we told you would own on the ground. LeGarrette Blount found his. Who's Hogan? Not 26-inch pythons. Chris Kidd. Oh, and we know Malcolm Mitchell. Hold that X. No, Dez motherfucker went -1 straight to the head. Oh! Okay, with that being said, we understand who these coaches are, right? The hooded one will not lose here. Tom Brady has too many weapons. We talked about this before the podcast. Deion Lewis, number 3. James White, number 2. I like Deion more than James Lewis.
I do too.
James White. We still know who the man is there at the run game. LeGarrette Blount. Wide receiving core. We said you have so many options. Malcolm Mitchell. Chris Hogan. Danny Amendola. Dare I say Julian Edelman, who still put up
he's almost an afterthought now. I know.
I mean, Martellus Bennett found the end zone. Again, you Gronk owners, Josh Miller, Schofield. I said weeks ago, handcuff Martellus to him. I get it's a tight end, but Gronk is injury prone, and Martellus is still a number 1 tight end. I'm not going to go longevity on this. I enjoy Emmanuel Sanders more than Demaryius Thomas. He'll get his. DT won't. It's going to be a cold night in the Mile High with the hooded one coming on top, 28-26.
Very close again, Dave. All right, we got the Raiders going into San Diego. How much of a factor is Carr's finger? He only had a 9.4 QBR last week. Was it his finger? Was it the cold? Or was it the Chiefs' D? Short week? Who knows? We'll see this week, I think.
That's my Indian name, Chief D.
Chief D. I like it, bud. All right. I think they're going to have to try and ride Latavius because I don't feel Carr is up to par right now. Not to spit some rhymes like Dr. Seuss. I'm not as good as you, Dave. That being said, Carr's still going to throw the ball. He's got Cooper and Crabtree. You're starting him. You're going to at least flex Crabtree, and you got to start Cooper. He's got too much upside not to play him because they're playing the Chargers. The Chargers, man, they're just, like I said, I've said it for all year. I feel sorry for Phillip Rivers. This team is always super injury prone. I don't know if it's something with their training staff or what it is. They got 17 players on IR. That's not counting Melvin Gordon and Mr. Bosa, their number 1 pick, who both got hurt last week. Melvin, I don't think he plays. Kenneth Farrow's the pick up there. You want to play him. I think Tyrell Williams and Inman are going to have a good game because they're at home. Rivers is going to throw the ball a lot because he's got an untrusted running back, in his opinion. That being said, it's not going to be enough. The Raiders are 10-3 for a reason. They take this game 28-20.
Latavius Murray showing up week in and week out.
One of those names that slip under the radar.
Yeah, we had a conversation the other week, and we were debating ranking quarterbacks of all time. Mm-hmm. And you know what? It was hard for me to not put Phillip Rivers in my top 10. Now, I know some of you old school players out there, old school fans out there are like, and I get it. You can easily not put him in there.
There's so many names.
Also did not.
There
but
are.
Let's remember, when he had LaDainian Tomlinson, he didn't have a receiving core. When he had Keenan Allen went down.
Hurt.
You know, and I get it.
Or he had Vincent Jackson and no running game.
And he's lost Melvin Gordon. He's lost Danny Woodhead. These are viable players. And
17 players on IR this year.
And he's still putting numbers up. I mean, we can't hate on this guy. If we're going to put it on an all what should have been list, he's definitely up there. I mean, the Raiders, I get rid of the Crabs. I get rid of the Cooper. I think it's all about their run game. It's so sketchy. In a standard, I'm playing Cooper. In PPR, I'm benching Cooper and playing Crabtree. It's weird. I get it. But he seems to be throwing the ball to Roberts. He seems to be throwing the ball elsewhere. What's that? Jalen Richards, number 30, the backup running back there.
Yeah.
He seems to be getting more targets than these guys that should be getting it out there. Now, with a healthy Pinky, we see a different story. I like Inman. I like Tyrell Williams.
I do too.
It's sad for Rivers. Go cry me some more. The Raiders win 21-17 with only 3 fights in the stadium.
I don't know. I'll take the over on 3 fights in the state.
Man,
Maybe not. If
fans.
it was in Oakland, okay, fine. I'll take it out.
We're not promoting that, guys. Calm the fuck down. It's just a game.
All right, Buccaneers, Cowboys. Buccaneers at 8-5, tied with Atlanta, fighting for the division and possible wild card between those two. Their D's really stepped it up. They've got 25 forced turnovers, tied for first in the league. They've only been giving up less than 13 points per game since week 10. The Cowboys, Dak is starting to show signs. I said it weeks ago. Dak is the future. I love me some Dak.
Was that back in Daktober?
It might have been Daktober. But the thing is, Romo's still the better passer. You can't fool him. He's seen everything. I know he gets a lot of grief, but it's not all his fault. He played on crappy teams and carried them until, the 1 year where Dez's touchdown wasn't a catch in the playoffs against Green Bay. That was the only time he had a great offensive line and running game. There's going to be a quarterback controversy coming up, I think. If Dak struggles again, he's got 3 straight games with less than 200 yards. Their offense has only put up 12 points per game in their last 2 with 5 turnovers. Might be Romo time. Garrett says it's Dak and he's their QB. Jerry Jones says that debate is a legit discussion and that you'll know it when you see it for the quarterback change. So that tells me Jerry wants his boy Romo back. Garrett doesn't want to buck the trend here with Dak. I think they need to start Romo if they want to be successful in the playoffs. Dak really struggled against the Giants when they zone blitzed him last week. He couldn't read it right. That being said, the Buccaneers are hot right now. I like Mike Evans. I like Jameis. I don't like Doug Martin in this game. I like Zeke because Zeke usually gets his unless it's against the Giants. I don't like Dak here. I think Dez might find the end zone. Standard play. I don't think in PPR he's the man. That being said, I think Tampa takes this game. Buccaneers 31. Cowboys lose at home 24.
Wow. I agree with you on the outcome of this game. I talked to you before we did our podcast here, and I said to you, I think if they lose another game, that they think about going back to Tony Romo. I think Jerry Jones has known this all along. He's saving Tony Romo until the playoffs.
For the playoffs, I agree.
Absolutely, and I don't blame him for that. You're giving Dak a lot of experience, a lot of learning curve. I said that they've turned the ball over a bunch. You reiterated that it was 5. I thought it was 3.
5 in 2 games.
Before the podcast. And I mean, that is just insane. He was protecting the ball earlier in the season. We also seen that with another young quarterback in Carson Wentz.
Dude, they're 2 of 24 out of their third downs.
If this game was in Tampa, I would guarantee you a win for the Buccaneers. I think it's going to be a hard-fought game. The Tampa secondary has smaller receivers, but they play better against the bigger targets. I think Cole Beasley and Terrence Williams have better weeks than Dez. I know it's hard to bench him here if you have him. Doug Martin will get his numbers. Charles Sims, a little iffy. It's going to be a good game to watch. Tampa wins this one, 25-21.
I like it. Panthers-Redskins for our last game here. The Redskins are 5-1 with that tie on top of it when they rush for 100 yards or more. The Panthers are only giving up 90 yards per game rushing. Cam's completed 43% of his passes in the last 4 games, but they're 2-2 and putting up 22.5 points per game in that time period. I hate to say it, I like Cam this week. I don't think he's going to be a top 10. I have him in my top 15. I think Jonathan Stewart, I think they're going to key on him and shut him down, and they're going to hope Cam throws the game away. Kelvin Benjamin's starting to fall out of relevancy. Maybe in standards, not in PPR. Greg Olsen, guess what? He's still Greg Olsen. Cam has to throw the ball to somebody. That being said, Captain Kirk at home, I'm not going against him. This man is prone. He could put up 300. He could put up 4.5 with 3-4 touchdowns any given day. I could see him throwing for 3.5, 400 on this D. 3 to 4 touchdowns. I see Jay Crowder having a good game. I see Deshaun having a good game. I think the Redskins take this. Washington 34, Panthers 28.
You seem to touch on everything, bud. I think Cam has turned into a Fig Newton this week, actually, so I disagree with you there. I was going to touch on how I think Jamison Crowder and Deshaun both have big weeks here, but you seem to do that. Kirk Cousins, it's someone that I've been given credit to. I enjoy him as a quarterback now. I think this is going to be a very good week for him. This has huge implications for them to push towards the wild card. Rob Kelly, not so much with Kuechly being back there at middle linebacker. Again,
I agree. They shut him down.
I don't know. I would like it to be higher scoring. It won't be. Ted Ginn, Funchess, better wide receivers there than Kelvin Benjamin. Funchess, more of a fluke week there. I like Ted Ginn there. I don't know. Redskins got a decent defense. I'm going to go 24-17.
Nice. Now we're getting a Belichick or bust to wrap up this long session here. Forgive us. We're not used to no bye weeks. We're still adjusting to that. All right, Belichick or bust. I know I don't like the Jaguars. I don't like Blake Bortles. I don't like their running back situation. But with Ivory hurt, with Shoelace hurt, who else do they have to go to? I'm taking TJ Yeldon. No, I'm not saying he's going to, Belichick it all the way into the Hall of Fame. I see him putting up, 12 points in PPR. He's a good flex play, which for TJ Yeldon, that's a Belichick. That's definitely not a bust. My other one, Matt Barkley. I hope he has the connection with Alshon that I think he's going to have. I think Alshon's good enough that all you have to do is just throw him up the ball. I know my son Kane touched on that when he was on our podcast. That's what you do with Alshon. Throw him the ball. Barkley hasn't had a receiver that standard yet. I think Barkley is going to have a good game. He made my top 15 QBs this week.
Yeah, I just touched on this gentleman just a second ago. My first one is Ted Ginn Jr. He did not find the end zone last week. He found it the previous 3 weeks. I think we see him find the end zone again. If he doesn't, it's a complete bust. But again, it is the Belichick or bust. Someone that was drafted very high here, we touched on it very earlier in this podcast, DeAndre Hopkins.
Yes.
Because this guy either goes out there and gets you the numbers you need or completely screws your week over. And that is why he might become the Matt Asiata of this week in our Belichick or bust.
I have no faith in Mr. Osweiler. Neither did Elway. I'm going to trust Elway's decision. Well, everybody, thank you for bearing with us. Good luck in your fantasy playoffs. May the fantasy gods be with you. Gryffindor!